This is a video about glue and the types of glue that I use when making my mail art. Essentially, I use two types of glue. I use a glue stick. Pretty much any brand is fine. I happen to like this brand a lot simply because it smells nice. I also like Uhu, UHU. And I like the big sticks. I don't like the little sticks. They make smaller size glue sticks. I believe these are the 40-gram sizes. They just run out less. They dry out less, to my thoughts. But I like this. I don't know how to say it. It's Italian, so it's probably Cocina, maybe. And it's almond scented, so it's just really nice. It's nice to use. So that's the glue stick that I use. And then I also use glue tape. You can find these in various dispensers. I use this one from Tombow. You can get ones that are permanent. You can get ones that are repositionable. I use the permanent ones. And the nice thing is that it's refillable, so I only have to buy the inserts. I don't have to rebuy the whole shebang. This is what the inserts look like. You'll notice that there's not much difference between them. You're not saving all that much plastic, but every little bit helps. And they come in packages of 3. I order mine from JetPens, but I mean, they're not hard to find. You can get them almost anywhere. Yeah, and it's a really easy process to refill. It's just you press in on these areas that have the little press indicators. And then when it comes time to refill it, you just pop it right on it. It's super simple. So yeah, and essentially what this does is it rolls a thin layer of adhesive to the back of whatever it is you want to glue, essentially turning it into a sticker. And I love this stuff. I use this stuff. 85% of my glued things are adhered with this stuff. The only times I use like an Elmer's glue or a liquid glue has to do with like 3-dimensional objects. Same with hot glue or super glue. Like that's all stuff that I'm not necessarily putting in the mail on a frequent basis. Things that don't get mailed, those are glues for those sorts of times. But things that go in the mail is these two. It's the glue stick and it's the glue tape runner. And so I'll do a little demonstration on which ones I use in which cases. I have here my selection of various papers that I'm going to use for this demo. And one of my pen pals sent over this collage piece. And there's a whole thing to do with like adding on collage to certain things. It's sort of like an exquisite corpse, but for collage. Exquisite corpses are when you do a drawing and then like somebody else draws on top of that and somebody else draws on top of that, or you hide parts of that drawing and people only see the edges of the drawing and you connect it together. It's a fun thing, fun project, but this is a slow process of that involving collage. And so it was sent to me with the idea that I could either keep it, or I could mail it on, or I could add something to it and mail it on, or I could add something to it and keep it. Like, very open-ended. But Heidi sent me this, and it's cool, and I figured it'd be great for this demo. I have this piece of paper here because that's useful for getting glue to the edges of things without getting glue everywhere. And I've got some various papers. I've got a doily. I've got I refer to this as being fussy cut. I've got a fussy cut image from, I think it was a magazine from the Art Institute. I have a piece of vintage paper. This paper, I had this calendar from like 1930. So this is 100-year-old paper. Almost 100-year-old paper. A snowflake I made from some vellum. Some other vellum. And then some ancient tracing paper. It's been sort of aged. You can see the yellowing, the acidification of it. Yeah, definitely not like archival, this paper, or probably this paper. Probably not archival, but it's not my problem. That's a problem for somebody else. Anyway, so put that aside. And I chose these papers because they're emblematic of ones that I would use in mail art and sort of have to decide what kind of glue I was going to use because of their nature as papers. Like I said, most of the time I'm using that glue tape because most papers are just paper, just your regular standard paper. And this is a good example of that. This is a little thicker because it's like a magazine cover. But what I would use for this is probably the glue stick. And I'm going to use the glue stick because it's got all these edges. That's not to say you can't use the glue tape runner, and I'll demonstrate how I would use the glue tape runner on one side and I'll use the glue stick on the other. And you'll see why maybe a glue stick is probably the better way to go. Just because it's a little quicker. But all right, so we've got our knight here. And sometimes I can't remember which way is the sticky way, but look, I found it. So I'm not worrying about getting my glue up to the edge. I'm just rolling right over because I know that's going to give me the best coverage for all those edges. I'll pull it up. And see, most of it got left behind on that paper, but you do have some instances where it sort of sticks through, and I literally go through with my fingernail and just pull it away. So you can do that. You can certainly use your glue tape runners for your tricky business cuts, but it's quicker and it uses less glue tape if you just use your glue stick. And again, I'm on this paper so that I can go all the way to the edge. And it's just a scrap piece of paper. I often use the back of papers that I know I'm going to use more of, or like I'm going to use later, or I'll use empty label papers. Like, yeah. So there, I've got glue all over the back of this. I know I wanted to put in like front and center, running down this road. And like pluses to the glue tape versus the glue stick is that the glue tape has no drying time. It is instantly dry. This is a bone folder. It's not necessary, but I find them useful for just smooshing things down, making sure they adhere. It's cleaner than using your fingers, but you could certainly use your fingers. But yeah, so I wouldn't want to have used an Elmer's glue here because it's so wet. And you can see sort of almost here, the moisture of the glue stick has caused the tiniest bit of buckling in this paper. And the nice thing about the glue tape is that it doesn't have any added moisture to it, so it doesn't do that. This paper, Remember I said this was about 100 years old. It is one of those things where you certainly could try using your glue tape runner on it. I can give it a try. Yeah, this one is okay. Like, I could get away with it. But a lot of older, more fragile papers, that strength of the adhesive on the glue tape is so much that it sort of just pulls up layers of that paper. And so you end up with a bunch of paper inside your tape roller and no glue on your piece of paper. So again, for vintage, fragile papers, I'll use the glue stick. Oh, I really stuck the top on this one. There we go. And again, I put it on my paper so that I can go all the way to the edge. And I do this little swirling motion when I pull my glue stick off, because often there's like some strings of glue that happen, and so I like to just sort of, that motion tends to cut the strings and get them all away. And see how that much that paper curled? That's from the moisture in the glue. Trying to figure out which way is up on this. I think that's up. I'm realizing this is sort of just like a case for using the glue stick, because I'm showing you all these sort of delicate, intricate papers. And the thing about translucent papers is that you will see the glue tape where it has been affixed on the transparent paper. So that's why I tend to use a glue stick on these sorts of papers. Well, since I know I'm not gonna use the top of this, I'll show you how it looks when you put glue on that bit. Can y'all see how you can sort of see the glue on that? It's probably better when I put it down. It's got a lightly blue tinge to the, it's visible. And I like my glue to be invisible. I mean, you could certainly use it to your advantage. You could maybe write someone's name in adhesive behind something that's transparent. That could be interesting. You could make designs with the glue behind the transparency. That would work too, but that's not what I'm going for here. So, when you've sort of messed up, gotten glue on your paper, you just fold it over. Scrap paper. Hooray! Now you've got a nice fresh space. Got like a weird piece of tape on this. So for items that have openings, it's best to sort of, because if you just slide your glue stick along them, your glue is going to get caught up under those openings. So I'm just sort of dabbing. Dab and pull off, dab and pull off. I can slide it along this outside edge. Otherwise I'm doing this sort of dab motion. And that's what I would do for the doily as well, is I would dab it, because it's got all those little openings. And just to avoid, and so you can see the glue here too, because of the transparency, and that'll fade a little bit as it dries, and hopefully this isn't too glossy a surface, and this vellum isn't too unfriendly paper to stick down. Just rubbing it, trying to get it to adhere nice. Play nice with others. some schmutz on it. All right, and I'm just gonna trim that. And sometimes if you're like, oh, there's no glue on that, you just throw your glue stick back and add a little extra. And for my part, like this particular piece isn't going through the mail as it is. Like it'll be put into an envelope and mailed that way. If I were going to mail this piece just flat like a postcard, I would probably look at those edges that I've just made, and to preserve those edges I would cover them in clear packing tape before I mailed it. And that's because of the automated postal machines. They're just swiping envelopes through them all day, every day, 24/7, fast as can be. And you know, they're rolling along in this direction. If they catch an edge, it's gonna get caught up in the machine and cause a lot of problems and damage your mail, delay your mail. And so I do my best to try and avoid that sort of business. Maybe I'll cut these bits where I'm just like, where did I put this one piece of paper? And the nice thing about translucent papers is that you can double them up and they'll do even more like opacity changes. Like that's fun. I'm gonna do that. And if you have print on them, like that'll allow you to make layers with that. You can see there's that curl I talked to you about. It's curling because of the moisture. Another thing I like to do, especially at Halloween, you know, they make those really fun sort of novelty napkins. You can use those like tissue paper, like I'm using this. You just have to split up the layers and then you just use a glue stick for them, just like I'm using these papers. So yeah, there's a way to use almost any material for mail art, even three-dimensional ones. Again, like there's not enough glue on this bit, so just add more. When using the glue stick, you have to be careful of getting glue all over your fingertips. I mean, for me, this is what jeans are for. Wipe your fingers on your pants. But you could be not a monster and have like a cloth nearby. But who would do that? Could like get up and wash your hands even. Yeah, okay. Glue gone. So I've got this paper too. Believe it or not, this is paper. At least I think it's paper. And I've noticed with this that if I use the glue stick, there's just not enough surface area for the glue to adhere this to. So this is an instance where I use the glue tape. The glue tape is never going to come out of the little holes, but it does manage to, like, as one piece, keep things stuck. Yeah, so for this, Again, I take my backing paper. I'm just going to roll it. And you might be able to see where the tape is in the light. So again, it's got a slightly blue tint. Yeah, so you can probably see it shining. That little bit happens to be enough to keep this stuck. And plus it looks so neat, like that layering, that bits upon bits upon bits, bits upon bits upon bits. It's funny, I managed to, I think, lock the focus on the forward-facing camera, and then trying to show things to it, it no longer focuses on them. So, trials and errors. But yeah, those are my glues. That's my sort of glue philosophy. Like, if it's a standard piece of paper, I'm using glue tape. If it's a thicker piece of paper, I'm probably using glue tape. If it is a handmade paper, if it is a vintage paper, if it is a paper with a lot of noodly bits to it, I'm going to use a glue stick. And if it's a paper where I don't want the glue to be visible when it's dry, I'm also using a glue stick. This is one of those instances where I could just like keep working on this piece, but I know that I shouldn't do that, because the whole idea is that you send it to somebody else and they work on it too. But I have one last thing I want to do to it before I put it away. It doesn't involve glue at all. All right, finishing touch. Okay, so I hope that was informative about glue and how I use it and what I recommend. If you have glue questions, happy to try and answer them. Again, my recommendations are the Tombow refillable adhesive permanent glue tape and the Cochina glue stick. So happy mail arting, happy collage, and thanks for watching.